First, Bloomberg.
The Senate is poised to advance immigration legislation as soon as this week, and later today there will be a vote. But some members of the Republican Party are still at odds. Some senators warn that if they can't find common ground and advance a bill, the political consequences could be dire.
So to the Republican Party, this is a chance to improve our economy, reduce the deficit by $890 billion, to get border security you'll never see in your lifetime, to regain our sovereignty.
Well, Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, a frequent guest on our program, is here with me in the studio, and also, of course, Leo Hendry joining us as well for the hour. He's a supporter of the president and of the Democratic Party. And Senator, let me talk to you first about what you just heard from Lindsey Graham. Are you heeding the call?
Well, first of all, I'm really not looking at the political ramifications. I'm looking at what this is going to do to our economy, what this is going to do to families. And from my standpoint, I certainly don't want to be breaking up any families. And
do you see the economic benefits?
Oh, sure. And we are a nation of immigrants, and we're going to need additional people in this country long term. So we've always been that nation of immigrants, but we have to recognize that our legal immigration system is horribly broken right now.
I think everyone recognizes it, though. I mean, the fundamental issue that is being debated between the Democrats and the Republicans is border security. And you have said before, right, that you won't let any reform go unless border security is tightened.
And I think the concern is, can we really trust the government? And let's face it, the credibility of the government is really coming under question, particularly in the last few months with all these revelations of the IRS scandal, Benghazi, the NSA, all those types of things. So people are really, we've kind of seen this rodeo before where we promised border security, never happened. And so I think it's all about, what order does the immigration reform, the path of some kind of legal status, citizenship, come in relationship to actually securing the border.
So it has to be hinged on that for you?
Well, I think so. I think there's a pretty common sense way of doing this, though, where we could potentially just say, hey, we're not going to deport. We're not going to deport your father. We're not going to deport your husband and wife.
Right.
But we have to actually secure the border. And I'm less interested in terms of what the triggers are and who's going to certify it as opposed to actually securing the border.
So, Leo, is the senator overstating border security?
No, I think with a country as large as ours, Betty, with borders as porous as ours, every country in a similar construct has to protect its borders. My concern is really twofold. With all respect, somebody here really doesn't like Mexicans. A lot of this bill, the nuance of the bill as it's being debated in the Senate as it comes to closure and then soon in the House, all of these sort of punitive measures are really targeting the Hispanic. And I wonder what Cesar Chavez, how proud he would be of us who are about to embark on a 13-year pathway to citizenship without any acknowledgement that some of these women and men have already been here decades.
I think the senator is recognizing.
First of all, what we need to do is we need to reduce the demand for illegal crossings, which means we should have a guest worker program that actually works. I'm not sure this bill does that.
I'm not sure this bill does that.
Yeah.
And my point, Senator,
and just throwing resources at the border, too, is I think, a kind of mindless approach to it as well. Plus, we can't have the incentive in terms of welfare payments, benefits to people come here. And that's part of the problem. This bill doesn't end a lot of that.
Well, and Senator, that's where I agree. This panacea of 700 miles more fencing and 20,000 more agents, and that's 2 checks on the checklist, and now we're done. I wish, and it's not going to happen. The things you wish for aren't going to happen this time, and what I wished for is more sensitivity to those women who've been here a long time.
Let's look at the House, because truthfully,
we're not going to get through the House.
Well, I don't think this bill will, and that's my concern, because I want to solve the problem. So I've always been advocating for the House to go first, pass the individual components. Rather than a 1,200-page bill or whatever this one is currently, you just let's pass a border security bill, let's pass an E-Verify system, let's pass a guest worker program.
But the argument is that if you did, then you're not going to get comprehensive immigration.
But I think you can, because if the American people, and this is who you have to first of all convince, because they don't believe the federal government will secure the border. They don't believe the federal government won't continue to pay benefits to people that really aren't entitled to them. And let's face it, we're already bankrupting this nation. You take a look at 30 years, we're doing some projections on that, $72 to $107 trillion worth of projected deficits over the next 30 years. So we're understanding the problem when we're stuck in this 10-year budget window. So we've got to actually convince the American people that the federal government will actually secure the border. You know, the best way of doing that is secure the border.
Well, the border, well, it's more of a drug problem now in terms of illegal crossings
that's part of it.
Economic problem.
That's part of it. But again, we don't have a guest worker program, so you still have that incentive for people to cross for economic reasons and not being documented. And that's the problem. You know, another problem, let's be honest about it, is we are paying Americans not to work. So this really, from my standpoint, starts with our welfare system being totally broken. Listen, we're a compassionate society. I think we need a strong social safety net, but how do you keep it from expanding?
You know, all 90% of American workers have had no real wage increase since 1967. Wage imbalance, whether it be the immigrant population or our existing so-called legal population, is a tragedy. What I do enjoy the senator's comment. What you're about to do tonight in the Senate may be very dispositive. You're going to go to the House and they're going to reject it out of hand. This House is so dysfunctional that when you present it with these omnibus bills, they say no.
That Washington is dysfunctional. When you're writing these 1,200-page bills, which are almost incomprehensible to read. I mean, try reading one time. It's referring to subsection XYZ of some other statute from, you know, they are incomprehensible. And so that's why I think it makes a lot more sense to break this down into component parts. You know, debate each particular part of this thing. I mean, what happened right over the weekend was the Corker-Hoven Amendment just throws another $40 billion of border enforcement, another 20,000 government employees.
It also threw
it's not a real thoughtful approach from my standpoint.
It also threw another 200 pages.
I understand, which of course we were all supposed to digest and be able to vote on today.
You're supposed to read by tonight.
Thank you so much for joining me. Great to see you here in the studio. Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, and of course Leo Henry is staying with me to talk more things, to talk all things media, including DISH Chairman Charlie Ergen and his decision not to go after Sprint any longer. We'll be back in 2 minutes.